they have patriotism. They are really willing to die for their country. And that's really important.
Any true American patriot doesn't support Trump. You cannot tell me that you are proud to be an American, that you support the United States of America, and that you fall in line with core American values and support Trump as president, since he stands out of line with said core American values, and he puts a great stain not only on this country, but what it should represent. And take it away. Tell us why you support Trump.
I'm kind of disappointed sometimes hearing some of the members of my own party and how stupid they are. But, okay, I do love watching you. Why do I support Trump? Well, I'd say that I'm 37 years old, and through my years, I kind of figured out that most presidents are full of BS. I don't really think that there's really any president in history that you could say like they really stuck to their word of everything they've said on their campaign or whatever it is. People who are seeking power generally tend to kind of, play into and feed into their audience. So I can't really say, there's a lot of things that I find morally corrupt with Trump, but I can't really say that there was a good Democratic candidate that I could get behind.
Okay.
And I would, I just want to say I would. There's a lot that I agree with on.
I find you to be guilty of a big issue.
Go ahead.
The big issue I find you to be guilty of is assuming, because we can't point towards any politician that is perfect, therefore, the most imperfect politician that we've ever had is somehow permissible and falls right in line with all the other ones. If I am a business owner and I need to hire, one moment, if I'm a business owner and I need to hire a new employee and I'm interviewing individuals for the position, okay, I'm not expecting to find the perfect individual for the position. I'm not expecting to find Jesus 2.0, but while I'm going through the interview process and talking to everybody that is interested in the position, I'm still going to be mindful and critically think my way to find who the best out of all the options are, even if none of them are perfect, right? So although, for instance, Kamala Harris wasn't perfect, she still wasn't a 34-count felon adjudicated rapist that thinks the media should be controlled by the state and media organizations don't have the legal right to critique her. Although she's not perfect, she's not the one that passed the most expensive bill in American history, that did a great redistribution of wealth from the poor to the rich, and took health care away from 10 million low-income families. And those are the very clear and distinct differences that makes me hold special animosity towards Donald Trump that I truly haven't held towards a Democrat in a long time.
So I think that this is where you and I would disagree. And I think it's perfectly normal for us to disagree. I know you're passionate and you want the best for the American people, and you probably want the best for my family as I want the best for your family. I think where we disagree is that I don't think that Trump was the worst option. I think Kamala Harris would have been a worse option. And I'll tell you why. All of those things that you say about him being, a felon and all of these things, I really want to focus on the difference between his personal life and the policies that he is recommending for America and for the American people.
Okay.
One thing,
and I'll show you how they relate to one another.
And I think that we can make a parallel, just about with every candidate and everything that they've ever done wrong in their life. However, I'm going to give you just like a little example. One thing that I think is extremely important, and it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a liberal, or if you're a Christian or a Jew. I'm Jewish, by the way, and I do support the state of Israel, and we can talk about that as well. I think that it's really important to love and be proud of your country, to really have patriotism. And that doesn't mean that you have to be a racist, and it doesn't mean that you have to be white, and it doesn't mean that you have to be a Trump supporter. It just means that you are living in this country and you should be proud of the country you're living for. And you should be asking yourself, what is your country doing for you? What can you do for your country? That doesn't mean that you can't criticize your country. That doesn't mean that you can't find faults. No country is perfect. But I think that over the years, we kind of lost a little bit of that patriotism. And people have become kind of embarrassed to say they're American. And I really think that it is important for young people, especially, if you look at all of these other countries who are against us in the world, China, Russia, Iran, Turkey, the main thing that they have is they have patriotism. They are really willing to die for their country, even though their country is not doing anything for them. But they have patriotism, and that's really important. And I think that regardless if you're...
at any point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Any true American patriot doesn't support Trump. You cannot tell me that you are proud to be an American, that you support the United States of America, and that you fall in line with core American values and support Trump as president, since he stands out of line with said core American values, and he puts a great stain not only on this country, but what it should represent. I'll give you an example.
Well,
Can you agree that any American
just...
patriot, right, would support core American values, including the American Constitution?
Well, I would say that you can't really, with one, stroke of a brush, when, 75 million people in the popular vote go for this president, that obviously people feel that he does align with American values.
And I'm here to tell you that you're wrong, and I'm going to prove it to you through debate.
And I would say, too, that, being an American and having American values does not come down to an administration or 4 years. I've lived through multiple administrations. I've lived through Democratic administrations.
Can you answer the question that I asked you?
Core American values being what exactly are you...
Patriots support the American Constitution. The document that so many of our servicemen and women have either been willing to lose their lives to protect or have lost their lives to protect. Do American patriots support the Constitution?
I think when I am speaking of pride, I'm speaking just of pride of being an American, the pride of living in a country where there are free elections and we get to elect our leaders. But we have the quote-unquote
free elections because of the Constitution. So you have pride in the Constitution and the rights in which it protects, right? Correct? Okay, great. Matthew, thank you for the galaxy. See, the thing is I'm trying to make a point here, right? But me making my point requires you to either affirm or deny a handful of preliminary questions. So what I'd like you to do when I'm asking you like these questions, when I'm trying to construct an argument, is to just keep your responses like short and direct. And I don't really feel like I'm getting that from you right now, right? Because the question that I'm asking you that hopefully I want to hear your feedback on is, do American patriots that take pride in America take pride in the Constitution and the rights in which it is enshrined as protecting? And that is what makes you take pride in America. An example of this would be, you told me that you take pride in free elections, but free elections are only supposedly protected by the Constitution. So do American patriots support the Constitution and the rights in which it protects for Americans?
Definitely. I agree with you 100%. I agree with you to the core.
Now can I make my point?
That's not the only thing, though.
Now can I make my point that you've agreed?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now here's the point. Donald Trump doesn't support the Constitution. If you are a patriot that takes pride in the values and rights that the Constitution gives to you, then you would never support Donald Trump in a billion years, because he is an anti-constitutional, wannabe all-powerful leader that does not play by the rules, but rather wants to make them, and has been incessantly infringing upon, disregarding, and disrespecting the Constitution forever. I'm going to go in and give you a timeline of events to prove that I am definitively right and that you are wrong. Okay, the first event in my timeline will be January 6, 2021, when Donald Trump launched his fake electorates plot, where he sent fake slates of electorates to 7 key swing states that Biden won, with fake votes to send back to Congress to steal the election. My evidence is it is not liberal misinformation or propaganda on CNN. My evidence is literally his legal defense when he was indicted in Congress for trying to rig the election. Keep it in mind, his legal defense was literally, yeah, I did this, but guess what? It was an official act of my presidency. Therefore, I should be immune from criminal repercussions. Second event in the timeline, December of 2022, Donald Trump called for a termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution, because he said the election in 2020 was stolen and it would permit overturning the Constitution. Next event, January 21st this year, Donald Trump signed into law Executive Order number 14160, ago that explicitly contradicted and infringed upon one of the most important amendments in the Constitution, that amendment being the 14th, when he attempted to take birthright citizenship away from the children of undocumented immigrants born on this soil, even though that right is explicitly protected for them by the clear text of the first section of the 14th and adjudications from the American Supreme Court from 1897 until 1987. Amanda, I appreciate you so much for the lion. Third event, when he then a month later said that he wanted to run for a third term and that there's many ways he could get it done if he wanted to. The 22nd Amendment says that no president can serve for more than 2 terms, meaning that was him calling for a termination of the 22nd. Fifth event, he passed an executive order a month ago attempting to ban the burning of the American flag, but the Supreme Court ruled in the 80s that that is expressly protected under First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and symbolic speech, meaning that he attempted to infringe upon the First Amendment. Sixth event, when he directed his Justice Department to find a way to ban gun ownership for trans Americans. That was so blatantly anti-2A that even the far-right NRA come out and publicly spoke against the Trump administration for pursuing that goal. Seventh event, I just have so many. Last week, he said on air from the Oval Office that it is literally illegal for the media to criticize him, marking one of the largest turns of the 21st century, where we finally have a president remodeling the scope of public discourse away from disagreeing with one another, seeking truth, criticizing thought we disagree with, upholding thought we agree with, to rather a mere reflection of what he likes or he doesn't like, mirroring countries that you named as worse than America because of their lack of rights, such as China, such as North Korea or Russia, right? And I'm not going to lie, I could continue to go on all day long and give off an 8th, a 9th, a 10th event of just how unconstitutional and pro-dictator this tyrant is, but I'd get too long-winded, so I'll stop there.
So are you saying that you disagree that pride is important?
I'm disagreeing that Donald Trump has any pride for this country. In fact, he's now demonstrated every single virtue in which you would expect out of a traitor to this country, and you are operating under a false sense of reality where you think you have pride in America, core American values, rights, liberties, and protections, but then you turn around and you support said tyrant.
I think that if I were to sit down and look at every Democratic nominee for president and compare their doings and their sayings and every time, every word that came out of their mouth against the Constitution, I would probably find a lot of things that are unconstitutional.
Do it. Make a comparison between Trump and Kamala Harris. What did she do that was unconstitutional? What did the lawyer do that was unconstitutional?
I would say as an American, I would say it's probably unconstitutional to allow an open border where you are not able, and I'll tell you why I say that. And now let me preface that by saying that I do not think that children who are born here should be ripped away from their parents and sent back. I am the child of immigrants. I am an immigrant in this country. I do not think that all of these horrible things that were happening, should be done or they can't be done in a more sensitive manner or whatever it is. However, at the same time, I don't think that you have a country if you don't have a border. And you can't just let people in without knowing who these people are. I just don't think that that is responsible towards your own citizens. I don't think that is a way to keep them safe. And I don't think that is constitutional. Now, do I think that not letting anyone in is constitutional? No, of course I don't. But I don't think that we had a candidate that was really giving us a good solution. We had an extreme on one side where it was just, a free-for-all, everybody come in. And that's the truth. That's exactly what it was. And I think that's how come Trump got, 75% of the Latino vote that bordered, those states that were bordered there, because they really felt the problem at the border. Do I think that there should be serious immigration reform? Yes. Do I think that people who have lived here lawfully for years, that they should have a very swift way to be a green card holder or a permanent resident? Absolutely, I do. Do I think that the people who have been sent out?
Can I hop in here? You're making you're making like 5 points. I know that.
No,
I did
but
too.
what I'm saying is that there were.
I know what you're saying. Don't worry, I'm listening. I'm listening to you. I'm listening. I've been listening this whole time. Trust me. I picked up on everything you just said. Or am I good?
I think that we were up against two extremes. I think that I think personally
Let's go point by
myself.
point. Let's go point by point. No more points. We're gonna address everything that you just said. Okay.
I'm here and I'm listening.
Great. Look at this. So Donald Trump just signed an executive order labeling Antifa as a terrorist organization. So MAGA, the people claiming that Trump and his administration aren't fascists, are now hopping on board with calling anti-fascists terrorists. Sounds about right. The story of Donald Trump labeling Antifa as a quote-unquote terrorist organization has around 300 different sources covering it from left, right, and center all over the internet. And that is why I've been using Ground News. Instead of me hopping on about 10 different apps or 15 different paid subscriptions to the New York Times, Washington Post, so on and so forth, I instead go to one app with one subscription, which would be Ground News. Ground News pulls it all into one place. It actually shows you the political leaning of the outlets covering a particular topic, such as Donald Trump labeling Antifa as a terrorist organization, how reliable the outlets are, and even who owns them. So you could see the full picture of how everyone is reporting on the topic, knowing what their political bias is, so you don't get stuck in an echo chamber. Check this out. Outlets like NPR have headlines reading Trump issues executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Meanwhile, right-leaning outlets such as Fox News have headlines reading, quote-unquote, ex-Antifa activist praises Trump's decision to label group as domestic terrorists. And then there's the ownership data tab, where you can see if a small group of companies is controlling the story. That's the kind of transparency that we never get when we're just bouncing around between headlines. I also love the blind spots feature. This shows you stories that only the left is reporting on or only the right is reporting on, and it's a great feature because it helps you stay in the know with reporting on issues that would fall outside of your typical news cycle. If you watch my channel, I know that you already care about cutting through the spin, focusing on the facts, and trying to determine what is actually going on. Ground News is another tool to help you do that. It makes it easier. So, if you want a better way to stay informed, go to www.groundnews.com/DeanW or scan the QR code on the screen. Right now, they're offering 40% off their Vantage plan for anybody that signs up using this link. And that's unlimited access to coverage all around the world with all the features we just talked about in one place. Again, that is ground.news/DeanW. For everyone in the chat saying that she's driving, I don't think that she is. We would hear slightly more noise.
I wouldn't be doing this while I'm driving. I have a 9-year-old child, so I need to be, healthy and safe for him. So I wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, there's a lot of other things you could also do to keep your kids safe by not voting for the guy that has now defunded the Department of Education and taken free school student lunches away from 3 million school students. But I digress. Let's go back to the first point that you made. You told us that you think that the unconstitutional behaviors and proclivities of Kamala Harris related towards her policy alongside Biden in the last 4 years to attempt to open up the southern border. So first and foremost, I mean, if we just want to talk about the brass facts here, open borders are not unconstitutional. The Supreme Court gave Congress, or just reaffirmed that Congress has plenary powers over immigration matters, which grants Congress really broad and nearly executive authority to establish rules for immigration and naturalization. And that's coming from Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution that explicitly grants Congress the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, more so giving it the authority to decide who may become a citizen in the processes of immigration. Would you be able to point me towards specifically what section inside of the Constitution would make quote-unquote open borders unconstitutional?
No, I wouldn't. And I'll tell you why. Because, this is your job and this is what you do for a living. You debate. And this is not what I do for a living. So if you came to, my place of work and I started asking you questions about, policies, in healthcare, you probably wouldn't have all the answers. But I'll tell you, constitutional or unconstitutional, when you're a president and you make that type of decision, that really says a lot about your thinking, about your caring for the American people, about you wanting to put America first, about you wanting to keep Americans safe. Just because something is not unconstitutional doesn't mean that it's right.
Yeah, but remember
So-
the argument that you were attempting to make was that although you just named off 8 clear, expressly unconstitutional things that Donald Trump has done in the last 8 months, I'm sure to be able to do the same for Kamala Harris. Then I asked you for an example, and then you said that this was an example of her
I
doing
would
something
say
unconstitutional.
that the argument that I was initially trying to make is that I think that Trump has brought back, in one way or another,
Please don't.
he has brought back some sort of patriotism and pride.
Please don't negate the fact that you're telling me that a wannabe all-powerful leader that wants to make the rules, that has disregarded the protections and rights offered to us under the Constitution and hates the Constitution in of itself, is bringing back patriotism and core American values such as the Constitution.
I think
That's just completely outrageous. This is like saying that the worst math teacher that you had in your life somehow made you so interested in math. This is like saying that, even though I grew up in a broken family with parents that didn't love me at times, that, I always felt like they were really good parents that did love me. This is like saying, the terrible preacher at that church I went to once in the last 5 years that was espousing heresy and false truths about my religious beliefs was the best preacher I've ever had in my life that really reinstilled my faith and value in Jesus Christ as God. Yet it's just contradictory on a foundational structural level. I will also say here in response to your point about open borders that the Biden-Harris administration didn't open the borders, and that's pure misinformation.
And who opened the borders?
Who opened the borders? No one. I don't think anyone opened the borders. Could you tell me how the Biden-Harris administration opened the borders?
And what did they do to secure the border?
Well, I will answer your question after you answer mine, because it just sounds like you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole and disregard the fact that you said the Biden-Harris administration opened the borders, yet you'd be able to indicate to me no policy that they signed into law that opened the borders. So once again, the question remains, how did the Biden-Harris administration, what I'm asking is how did the Biden-Harris administration open the borders?
Everybody who listens to you knows that you can't answer what did they do to control and to keep the American people safe and to control the border crossing.
And everyone that listens knows that I don't entertain deflections, right? I will happily answer your question. I will happily answer your question when you are not using said question as a deflection.
I can tell you that I know that border crossings were high, very, very up much during the Obama administration and during the Biden-Harris administration, and would have continued under the Harris administration. The borders, we could say, have always been open, right? Because it's not that we at some point never let anyone in. So saying who opened the borders, maybe that was a poor choice of words on my end. But what I really meant was that how much and who are you allowing in? And, what kind of control, what kind of record, what kind of policy are you setting at the border? But I mean, the border.
And you're telling us that you support Trump because of his policy towards the border. What policy has he implemented since the end of the Biden-Harris administration to shut down and secure the southern border?
Well, border crossings are record low.
That's not the question that I asked, though.
96 or 97.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that border crossings are down by over 90%. I'll get around to why, but could you please tell me what good policy he implemented to decrease border crossings?
Yes, that if you try to cross into our country illegally, without pleading asylum, without the proper documentation, that we will catch you, we will jail you, or we will deport you.
That's a statement. That's a statement, not a policy. So what executive order did he pass, or what new policy did he implement and sign into law to help shut down the southern border?
That just shows that it is enough sometimes for a president to make a statement that other countries hear. And that's all you need to do is make a statement
now
to keep your people safe.
We actually may be on a similar note here. We are now both agreeing that Donald Trump did not reduce undocumented border crossings with any good policy from our government, but he will you allow me to finish speaking? I understand I interrupted you, so I'm kind of being a hypocrite here, but will you allow me to finish speaking?
As long as you admit to being a hypocrite.
And I'll make sure I give you your time too. How about this? How about we both start speaking in shorter segments of times? Because I feel like when you talk, you're talking for 3 minutes. So now it's I feel like I have to interrupt you if I want to be able to respond to a specific point. But I also talk a lot. So how about we both try to condense what we're saying here? We're both a little bit verbose.
I think that I'm really enjoying this conversation with you because you are challenging me and you're making me think. I think overall, as a woman with a child in this country, I feel safer now.
Okay.
That might sound
Okay,
crazy
see,
to you.
this is, we're
No,
moving.
but that's right.
I
But
will
that might
happily. I will
sound-
happily tell you why you shouldn't on that point. But first, I want to respond to the last point. So I'm going to go ahead and take the mic now. You told us that no, Donald Trump did not reduce border crossings with good policy. He reduced border crossings by what he said. And to that, I partially agree. I don't think the reason why we see an over 90% reduction in undocumented entry into America is because we have a fit president that has implemented good, effective immigration policy. I rather think that we have lower border crossings because we have a wannabe authoritarian president that has been doing shit that's fascist, that has been scaring said entry away. Let me get this straight. All immigration into this country starts off with the base assumption that said immigrant will have a higher quality of life in the country. Now, Donald Trump is telling immigrants that they will not have a higher quality of life, but rather a lower quality of life by violating both the human and constitutional rights of the undocumented immigrants that are already in the United States of America. What do you think that potential undocumented immigrants thought to themselves when they saw Abrigo Garcia being illegally deported to El Salvador, where he was beaten and tortured and starved for 3 weeks? Meanwhile, SCOTUS ruled his removal was illegal, said the Trump administration had to bring him home, and they said, hell no, we don't care. What do you think that those potential immigrants thought to themselves when they saw the Venezuelan immigrants deported without due process, even though a federal judge had ruled they had to stay here until they had due process, and were also sent to El Salvador? What do you think they saw when Donald Trump's administration was blackbagging college students, violating the withholding order of a judge, and taking them 1,000 miles away to an ICE detention center on the other side of the country? What do you think they thought when they saw Mr. Khalil, who was a legal green card holder in this country, detained in an ICE detention center for 3 months, even though he was not an undocumented immigrant? They saw tyranny. They saw human rights abuse. They saw blatantly illegal and fascist and things, which obviously disincentivize their entry. So that's why I think we've seen such a fast and drastic reduction in undocumented entry into this country. But that's bad for a handful of reasons. The first reason is why it's bad. It's immoral. That one should be obvious. It's obviously immoral to illegally deport people and have them tortured. The second reason is that it's short term. As soon as we have a president that's not a fascist, guess what? That incentive structure of sending entry away because you're telling them they'll have a lower quality of life will be reversed because we're no longer torturing immigrants or violating their constitutional rights.
Or maybe this is just the beginning and there will be a continuation. Maybe there had to be some sort of an extreme gesture to take back control. And from here, we can build on a real immigration reform.
Are you actually justifying? So are you actually justifying the human and constitutional rights violations?
I'm going to say that, first of all, undocumented people who are not Americans, and the Constitution protects Americans. So people who are here undocumented
She's actually justifying it.
are not.
That's so.
No,
gross.
I'm not. I'm saying that many of those people who come in here, and it's not gross, Dean, because you couldn't go into any other country.
Yes, justifying human rights violations is gross. And I also want to give you. I want to give you a pushback on something else that you said there.
You couldn't just go into any other country. Listen, you couldn't just go into any other country and just establish that that is it. Now I'm here.
Oh, so I have a question. If child marriage, if child marriage and child rape was legal in every other country on earth, would you say that therefore, if we were to legalize child rape, that it would not be gross?
Child marriage is legal in many countries on earth, and you know that.
Wait, so does that mean? Does that mean if child marriage occurs in America that it's not gross?
I'm sure that occurs in America and it is gross. It is gross.
Exactly. So it's gross regardless. It's gross regardless of the amount of people that do it, because you just tried to tell me that if you go into any other country on the face of planet Earth and they deport you to a center for terrorists illegally where you're tortured, well, not only do other countries not really do that, but if they were to do that, that wouldn't mean that it's not gross if we were to do it. So shut the hell up. Your point is wrong, and you are an incredibly immoral, apathetic individual for attempting to justify not just illegal, but torturous mechanisms that the Trump administration has been using in relation to undocumented immigrants. It is totalitarian, immoral, and disgusting. And then also, to respond to something else that you said there, one last thing. You said that the Constitution only protects rights for...
Listen, I would say that it is immoral and disgusting. Listen, I would say that it is immoral and disgusting to know that there are murderers and rapists who can potentially cross the border and come into this country, and to know that they will bring harm and they will bring along drugs, and our youth will suffer.
Yeah, you're not even. So it's crazy if a rapist crosses the border into the country, but it's not crazy at all if a rapist, crosses through the security checks in D.C., goes into the White House and passes legislation. In fact, you want the rapist to be doing exactly that. I say we ban rapists from legally immigrating into the country, and we ban rapists from serving as our president. Now, something else I wanted to touch on here is you made a sly comment suggesting that the Constitution only protects rights for American citizens. Are you pro-life? Do you think abortion should be banned? Just a yes or no will suffice.
Do I think abortion should be banned?
Just a yes or no will suffice.
No, of course not.
Okay, so you're pro-choice?
I am absolutely pro-choice, yes.
I wasn't expecting that. See, we'll talk about how that's contradictory to the Trump administration in a bit.
One second, listen. I started off by saying that I felt that Trump was the lesser of the two evils, and also that I definitely don't agree with all of his policies. I am definitely pro-choice. Do I think that there should be some sort of counseling? Do I think that there should be, education? Absolutely. Do I think that education should come with guilt? No. Do I think that there should be abortions in the, when you're 8.5 months pregnant because you all of a sudden changed your mind? No.
Actually, yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Yeah, you think that should be legal. I can tell you why you think that should be legal.
No, I think that it should be legal in circumstances.
No.
Right?
You think it should be legal in all circumstances ever. Could I tell you why?
That I think, just clarify for me that I think it should be legal in all circumstances ever. What? Yeah,
that women and girls should be able to access abortion all 9 months for any reason or no reason at all. Could I tell you why you think that?
Well, I know what I think, but go ahead. You can tell me.
Yeah, because you told us that the Constitution only protects rights for citizens. You don't become a citizen until birth.
I think that this is just going somewhere stupid. This is just so stupid. But besides,
it is going somewhere stupid. That stupid place being the idea that the Constitution only protects rights for citizens.
You can't just place all of morality and ethics and everything in just a document, right? You can't just always lean on the Constitution.
Well,
right?
you have to maintain consistency. You said that the Constitution only protects legal rights for citizens, meaning under your view, citizens don't have any legal rights, as the Constitution is the highest document of all, supersedes federal, state, and local law, meaning that you would say that a fetus prior to birth and citizenship has no legal right to life in any scenario whatsoever. So why would abortion ever be banned?
I did not say that. I did not say that a fetus does not have any right to life. I didn't.
Okay, well then you're saying that non-citizens do have constitutional protections.
What I'm saying.
Then you're saying that non-citizens do have constitutional protections.
I'm not saying that either. I'm saying that.
What do you think a right to life is? That is a protection by a body of authority to prevent unjust infringements upon your life.
I think that we have a moral obligation as Americans and just as humans, to look past.
I actually got to kick you. Sorry, I have to kick you because you got a flag for hate speech. My bad. I had a kicker. She got the live restricted over on TikTok. That was kind of insufferable. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It was a pretty insufferable conversation.